What up, peoples? Welcome back. So I want to talk to you about the video I posted 2 weeks ago. It's tedious, it's time consuming, and I love it. It's called stop motion. So if you haven't seen it, go click on it, or I'll link it up in above me somewhere on my head. Keep a lookout, it'll show up. So I'll link it up there. But it's a quick little video that I did, and I want to talk about the behind the scenes of it and what it all took, because it took a lot. As you know, the video wasn't that long, all of less than a minute. Perfect for TikTok. But it was less than a minute, but it took hours and hours of work. So stop motion is essentially a video stitched together by single frame photos, and it creates an actual in motion video. So I really enjoy creating these types of videos. My first one was when I was home alone, home from a winter break or summer break from college, and I really felt that urge that I just wanted to create something. But in my head, I was thinking that I didn't have the equipment or the capacity to actually create what was going on in my mind. But I think that was one of the first times I heard God tell me, do what you can with what you have. And so I was like, you know what I have? I got paper, I got coloring pencil, and I got tape, and I got an idea. So I cut together a really short but it was short but also a little drawn out for stop motion video to the song Florence and the Machine's Cosmic Love. I drew up an eye, or an eyeball, and I did a couple origami stars, and I grabbed some tape and I posted it up on the wall and got to work. I had a tiny little point and shoot digital camera, one of my first cameras, and I got to work on that video. Mind you, I do tend to make things a little bit more tedious than they need to. I could have just as easily shot it on the floor, and I wouldn't have to worry about the tape getting loose as I was slowly moving it, and it was losing its stickiness. I could have just did it on the floor, but at that time we had carpeting, so I would have had to do it on the kitchen floor if anything. But I did it on the wall, and it worked just as fine for me. And I even got the eye to close. It was really cool. I really had fun doing it, and it was drawn out a little bit, but it was worth it. So with this video, I'm actually starting to get back into that form of storytelling. Again, I wanted to create something. I wanted to do something different than what I had been doing. You know, my go-to is always photography and this style of video to satiate my video creation needs, but I wanted to do something more. So I was like, let's do a stop motion. I have been posting photos of the word boards that I've been coming up with on my Instagram, and so I tend to leave it up for like a week, 2 weeks, because there's sayings that I need to know, I need to keep in my mind, or they really popped in my head and I just want to keep looking at it and break it down in my mind. So I usually leave it up. And this word board had been up for maybe 2-3 weeks, and I was like, oh, I should take it down. I should make a video of me taking it down. And then it became a video of me creating the word board. So with this style of storytelling, it captures my need to work with my hands. It contains my attention span, and it gives me something to focus on. I get to do a lot of hands-on in the pre-production of it all, and then also get to see it all come together in the post-production of it. So it's really fun for me, just because it's literally my mind's idea from beginning to end. Like, it's only up to me to create this. I can't rely on someone else, or trying to find a model, or trying to convey the storyline to someone else. Like, it just gives me full freedom to just make it and get it done. So that is why I really enjoy doing stop motion, at least the stop motion I have done so far. This particular stop motion video took over 4 hours to capture and over a couple of days to actually edit together. So I actually filmed it in late summer, and I'm just now in late winter getting it done and out. So it took a lot, to say the least. So a couple of hours, but one evening to shoot it all. I started in the late afternoon, early evening, And then by the time I was finished, the sun was well set. Like darkness, stars were out, the sun was gone, moon was up. It was time for like nightlife type. That's how long it took. But again, enjoyed myself. So I had the word board itself up on the windowsill, so that kind of locked me in on a certain type of lighting for that portion of the video. As I said, it was late evening, so the sun had just started to slowly set. It was in the summer, so I had more time with the sun than I would if I shot it in the winter. And there were actually people working in the grass outside of that window, and I had to angle the camera just right so that we couldn't see them. Like I couldn't see them in the frame because they actually were out. Like if I had angled up my camera just a little bit more, you would have saw them working out. They would have been captured in a couple of frame or two and then blipped out in another second. So I definitely didn't want that. So I had to set up the camera just right. I had to get started so that I could have the backlight of the sun while also having one of my soft boxes as the forefront light. Direct light. And so it was interesting to make sure I got that portion all done before the sunset. That didn't take too long. But the thing that became most tedious for me was the grouping and ungrouping of the letters. So I actually shot this in reverse order. So I started out with a word board already done up with the saying, and then slowly move the letters down the word board until they were off the screen. You see them moving down the windowsill and out of frame. So I worked like that. I did that portion first, and then I did the grouping and ungrouping of the letters on a flat table surface. I learned my lesson from the wall before. No more tape. I just laid it on the ground, on the tabletop, and shot the camera just directly overhead, with the lighting also directly over it, because at that point the sun was already gone, so I only had indoor lighting to work with, and the indoor lighting of the room, terrible. So I had my softbox to kind of fill that space. And I shot with my 35mm because this is like my new favorite lens. This is always going to be my favorite, my 50, which is great for portrait, but 35, loving my life right now when it comes to lenses. I have a different type of love in my life when it comes to my real life. So I focused on doing that, the grouping and the ungrouping, and that took forever. And at a certain point I was trying to do that with, like, I was trying to remember what letters made up which word, and then that took too much. It took way too much, and it was confusing me. I was losing my attention span to that, so I had to find a different way of doing that. So I knew that this was going to be just kind of get away from me, so I tried to remember how many letters, how many A's made up the entire board, how many C's, how many O's, and I tried to make sure I captured that amount of them. Essentially, I was going to have the letters as they were being grouped and ungrouped. I was going to have them in order of the wording itself, but because I didn't capture the stills, I didn't timestamp it, so that made it a lot more tedious to pull it into my Adobe Premiere. So it would have been a lot for me to find the letter and then all the frames leading up to that letter, and then all the frames leading away from that letter, and then put them in that order. It would have been a lot. And that is why it took me days over the course of months to actually edit it in post, because I was trying to figure out how I was going to edit it. And then when it came down to it, I just pulled it in reverse order of how it was shot and just left it as is. That's why you see grouping and ungrouping of multiple O's, multiple A's, and just kind of getting that done. The video itself could actually amount out to a full minute, maybe a minute and 30 seconds if I took the entirety of my footage and edited it into this video, but after a while that grouping and ungrouping became monotonous, and I did one batch of the bigger letters and then one batch of the smaller letters that made up hashtag be kind to yourself. So I was like, you know what, we have the larger letters, I don't need to iterate that I did the exact same thing for the smaller, tinier letters, because I actually shot that. Everything was shot in reverse, but the continuity of how I did the smaller letters would not have made sense. So I just kind of left that portion out of the video. I might go back and kind of redo that for maybe something else. But as of right now, I just kind of left that on the cutting room floor, and that the outcome is this 40 minute video. So how I did it is I kind of pulled it all together in one timeline of Adobe Premiere. Shot it, set it up, exported it as it was, and then brought that into another editing bay where I could actually extend it a little bit longer. I learned a new feature with Adobe, because as I was pulling in the photos, they would be 10 to 15 frames on the timeline, and I was shortening them manually. So I would take it from 15 and 10 seconds, shorten it to 30 seconds, and then drop another one. Take that 15 and 10, shorten it to 3 seconds. And I would have had to do that each frame. Mind you, there were at least 400 to 800 frames. And that is why I was just like drained sooner than I should have been. Then I did the smart thing of doing some research on my software, and I was able to change how I import photos. So now the setting is set up where when I import photos, it automatically only imports as 1 frame per second. That is too short for any other type of video editing that I do. So I'm going to change that to 3 frames per second. But I'm so happy that 1, I've learned something new about my software, but 2, that I have a new technique in which I'm going to start doing my stop motion, as far as editing it in one bay and then pulling it into another, and then that way I can play around with the time of the actual clip. So I tend to give myself a really small space to work when I'm doing the actual pre-production of it all. I had a fold down TV dinner table kind of stand to work on in this tiny little corner, and I have my tripod in one angle, my softbox in another, and so few space to kind of move around. But I do that on purpose. I don't want to be in the way of anybody else that is living in the general vicinity of what they might need to get to, because if I have to stop for any reason and start again, say in the next day, I don't want it to be disturbed by me or by someone else. So I give myself such a small place to work with. But also, if something happens to it, there's no one to blame but me, and I'm fully comfortable with that versus the alternative. So I had this tiny little space that I worked in, and that in itself became tedious too. You'll see that in the behind the scenes video that I was able to capture. I did set up my other camera on like a bed or something that shot me at different angles, doing all of this, running around, getting that done. And that just shows you, like, as the sun sets, me just keep going. I don't even think I've raked for food, and that is how I know I'm loving what I'm doing, especially when I'm behind or in front of the camera, because I don't get hungry. I actually can just work right through it, and that's actually fun for me. So I plan on coming up with a couple of different more stop motion videos and putting that up on my YouTube page and possibly on my TikTok as well. I just have to come up with what concept I want to do. I actually have a couple rolling around, and they're my old thought journals, and all I have to do is just create the images and then get to work. So I'm excited. This going forward, my stop motion should happen a little bit more seamlessly now that I have learned from past mistakes. So again, if you haven't seen the video, actually go check it out. It's listed in it's the last video I posted, but it's also above and also the end card for you to check out. So let me know what you think. Let me know if you have any ideas for me that you want to see in stop motion. Comment what you think about either this software or what you thought about the video, and I will see you in a few weeks. I hope you had a great day and an even better tomorrow.